Hello everyone, it's time for another installment of
Morphin Mythos.
Last time I asked you guys to leave some episode suggestions in the comments, and we got one. Well, Kevin is one of this channel's oldest supporters, so yeah, I guess we're doing his episode today. Good job, Kevin. Thanks for the suggestion. Alright everyone, get your paper and get ready to fold some origami. Samurai Sentai Shinkenger aired in Japan from 2009 to 2010. It was adapted into Power Rangers Samurai, which aired in 2011, and Super Samurai, which finished the storyline in 2012. The mecha of Shinkenger are the origami. I'm going to keep the focus of this video on the 5 core origami. If people want me to do something on Genta's Sea Creatures origami or the auxiliary origami, that's going to have to be a follow-up video. The core team's origami weren't changed or altered for Power Rangers like the Chilin or the Shitsu were for the second season of Mighty Morphin. For some reason though, in Samurai they call them folding Zords instead of origami. They had no problem with a white guy named Jaden Shiba being the descendant of a long line of Japanese samurai, but children would be confused by the word origami? I did origami when I was a kid, and I was in my teens when this show came out, and Christ, I can't believe Samurai was this long ago now. Let's begin with a very abridged history of origami in Japan. As most of you are aware, paper originated in China. Due to Buddhist monks, the art of making paper migrated from China to Korea and eventually Japan. Japan applied their own techniques to make paper that was strong enough for folding. When paper was first introduced to Japan, it was expensive and hard to come by. And so origami, originally called orikata, was used primarily for important religious ceremonies, and was a practice reserved for the elite and the nobility. As paper became cheaper and easier to produce, origami became more widespread and practiced by all of Japan, and eventually evolved into the version we all know and love and are introduced to in kindergarten. What does any of this have to do with samurai? Well, samurai were a warrior caste who, at their prime, were among the aristocratic elite. There was a special type of origami called a noshi that was attached to gifts that the samurai would sometimes give people. As far as I can tell, that's the only direct connection that exists. The main reason for having the mecha be origami doesn't seem to be because of any deep historical connection between samurai and origami, but rather because Shinkenger uses a very romanticized interpretation of samurai, and having them pilot origami brings a deeper association between samurai, nobility, creativity, and culture. Historical samurai are often referred to by world historians as assholes. Huge assholes. They were a warrior class who could kill peasants that offended them with legal impunity. What Westerners know as Bushido, the rigid samurai code of conduct, wasn't a term that was circulated in wide use until Nitobe Inazo's 1899 book, Bushido, the Soul of Japan. This book wasn't released until over 20 years after the failed Satsuma Rebellion, which ended the samurai as a caste in Japan. The book became internationally popular and helped shape the modern image of the samurai. Basically, the samurai for Japan are what cowboys are for Americans. We love to tell stories of how they brought order to chaotic and lawless places during chaotic and lawless times, while skipping over their more problematic aspects. It's not hard to see why Toei preferred Shinkenger to embody a romanticized image of the samurai rather than a historical one. Even the servants of the house, the Kuroko, are dressed as and referred to by the name of stagehands in kabuki theater. Having the Shinkenger pilot origami implies that, in addition to warriors, they are also artists, poets, and among the enlightened. So now that we've done a very brief history on origami and samurai, we can talk about the mythological roots of the animals chosen to represent each Shinkenger's origami. We'll go ahead and start off with Shinken Red's Shishi Origami. In my previous Morphin Mythos video, I talked about the Chinese guardian lion statues, Shitsa, but I'll do a brief recap. Lions aren't native to China, but as China's empire expanded during the Han Dynasty, as well as traveling Buddhist monks exposing the empire to animals and ideas from neighboring countries, lions became a revered part of the culture. While emperors are generally associated more with the dragon, it makes sense for Shinken Red to be represented by a lion. He's not an emperor or king, he's a samurai lord. His main duty is to protect people. So the lion still represents royalty, but in addition also represents the Shiba family's roles as guardians of humanity. The regal nature of the lion crosses over fairly well for a Western and international audience. Even though Jaden isn't royalty, the lion still marks him as a strong and capable warrior. In addition to Shitsa, I also touched on dragons in my previous Morphin Mythos video, and how Chinese dragons were associated with the element of water, not fire. And so Shinkenger is already more faithful to the mythological origins of dragons than Dai Ranger. There's something else that makes Ryunosuke having the dragon pretty cool, and it's something that gets a bit lost during the localization to Samurai. The first mythical emperor of China was Fuzi. Depending on the story, he may or may not have been a dragon himself. Chinese mythology is weird, and I don't have time to really get into it. Anyway, he and his sister more or less created humanity and taught them everything, including writing. The 8 trigrams of the I Ching were said to be revealed to him in markings on the back of a dragon horse. The trigrams of the I Ching are believed to be the basis of calligraphy. In Shinkenger, their powers are manifested by writing kanji. Before Genta shows up, Ryunosuke is the one who is able to think up new ways for the team to use their powers. He even comes up with the mecha combination, Tenku Shinken-O. While Kevin in Samurai is driven and disciplined like Ryunosuke, that connection between dragons and the origin of writing is difficult to localize. Something else to note is that there are representations in pop culture of dragons as servants or messengers to gods. I couldn't find much in reference to old myths, but there are examples in anime and manga. So while dragons are usually more associated with emperors, it does make sense for a dragon to be the totem of a vassal. Let's move on to the Saru, or monkey origami, which belongs to Shinken Yellow, Kotoha. On the surface, this may not seem like an appropriate match. Monkeys are often depicted as tricksters and are comical and foolish. If we went with that interpretation, it would be more appropriate to give this avatar to Chiaki. However, monkeys have multiple roles in Asian and Japanese folklore. In Japanese, the word for monkey, saru, is a homonym with the word for expel or dispel. In Chinese geomancy, the northeast is considered the direction of evil. This concept was imported to Japan as Kimon, or demon gate. Monkeys and foxes are believed to be the guardians against Kimon influence. In addition, there are gods in Shinto that use monkeys as their avatars, or messengers. So it makes sense for the kind-hearted Kotoha to be represented as a monkey. She does everything she can to fight against evil, and is one of the most loyal retainers to Takeru and the Shiba family. Emily's personality is pretty similar to Kotoha's, and so, while the Western audience Power Rangers Samurai is intended for won't understand the monkey as something that drives away evil spirits, it is at least still representative of Emily's fun, playful nature. The bear's importance in Japanese mythology is mostly contained to rural agricultural hunting tribes, and so it's an animal whose spiritual significance isn't as mainstream as the monkey or the turtle. Japan is home to a unique species of black and brown bear. The brown bear shows up mostly in Ainu culture as a sacrifice, and so the Kuma origami more likely takes inspiration from the Japanese black bear, also known as the Tsuki no Waguma, or moon bear, for a white mark on its chest resembling a crescent moon. The moon bear's habitat is mostly mountain forests, which directly relates it to Shinken Green's wood and tree Mojikara. In addition to that, its diet consists mostly of vegetables, nuts, and berries. The animals it does eat are generally small, such as insects, crabs, and rabbits. The moon bear has a relationship to the Yama no Kami, or mountain god. The Yama no Kami is the caretaker of all the animals in its domain. It would allow specific animals to be hunted out of generosity, but in exchange, humans needed to be respectful of the other animals and the forest. The moon bear was believed to be a messenger of the Yama no Kami. In some communities, moon bears that had completely black chests were believed to be the most sacred and the Yama no Kami's direct messengers. If a hunter killed one of these bears, they would offer the body up to the Yama no Kami and give up their life of hunting forever. So while the bear doesn't have a lot of direct influence in Japanese folklore, it is still associated as a servant or messenger, which is perfect for a samurai vassal like Chiaki, whose personality shares a bear's fierceness and determination. Even without the Yama no Kami, it is possible for a Western audience to draw a connection between bears and the forest element. Most bears in America also live in mountains and forests, and Mike is the most hard-headed in terms of personality of the core 5 samurai rangers. While it's disappointing that the aspect of the bear as a messenger or servant to a spirit god or lord is lost in adaptation, the totem at least still works as a representation of the character's personality. Shinken Pink's avatar, being the turtle, seems to be an odd choice given that her element is air and turtles are usually associated with water. Well, the kanji on the Kame origami can mean air, but it can also mean heaven. So it can be a reference to Genbu, the black tortoise, who is one of the 4 sacred beasts. But Genbu's element is water, and he is generally much more aggressive than Mako is. There are other stories where the backs of turtles are used as shelters and even the home of immortals. This seems more in line with Mako's personality and also justifies her using the wind element. It also connects with the support role that the other origami totems have. This is probably the Zord most affected by localization. Like Mako, Mia is defined by a desire to be a good wife in the future. Without the context of the turtle's mythological roots, it just doesn't really work for her as a totem, and her having wind-based attacks makes no sense at all. A lot of work went into the aesthetics of Shinkenger. It's easy to see why most of the attention and love from fans is given to the swordsmanship shown in the fight choreography and the depiction of samurai life and culture. But the totems that the origami represent also have a lot of history and meaning that add to these characters. When watching something like Power Rangers and Super Sentai, it's easy to get lost in details such as how cool the robots look or ask questions like, a monkey? Really? But a lot of time and effort gets put into choosing what totems and animals represent which characters and how it fits into the overall theme. And if surface level aesthetics are all you're focusing on when you're adapting something, then all of that meaning and symbolism gets lost in the translation. Well, that's all for now. Till next time, may the power protect you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. If there are some Zords or even a monster you would like to see covered in a future video, please let me know in the comments below.